Hey, Ron, my friends. I'm going to try this again. I'm so sorry about that. I tried to do that live about 10, 15 minutes ago, and it appeared that it was getting interrupted, and I got cut off at about 6 minutes, and I actually went about 10. So I'm going to try this again. I really believe that this issue is something that I really want to share because I think it's something that absolutely matters. And yeah, so I see people are popping on, and so if there's issues, someone tell me, right? Right on. So again, what I want to talk about this week is something that I know can make a difference in the world we live in right now, and that is this idea of focused intention or focused thought. And really, what I'm talking about here is I believe the same as the believer community with prayer, contemplation, meditation of focused intentionality. And what is the main reason why we do those things? We do those things because we're wanting a change or a shift in a situation or experience or in our lives. And I think that many times we're asking an outward source, if you will, for help. But I happen to be a believer in the sense that I'm a co-creator in my experience and in my reality. I have to get into the details of who you're co-creating with. We'll talk about that later. But I absolutely believe that we are co-creators in our reality and in our experience in life. So it becomes very important that we are aware of that and pay attention to our intentions. I think, especially right now in the climate in our world, and especially the climate here in the United States, where so many people are feeling to a certain extent helpless, like, what can I do to make a difference is something that absolutely needs to shift. There needs to be a major shift in many areas of our experience here in the United States. And so, for a lot of times, we feel helpless, like, I don't know what to do. And yet, I believe we're these creatures that are, I believe, at some level, all of us believe we're connected, regardless of our vessels, whether it's white, it's black, it's whatever it is. There's a connectedness of oneness, if you will, for all of us. Okay. So if that's the case, then it becomes very important that we focus on our intentionality because it does make a very big difference. So I wanted to just illustrate that with a short little story of something that happened to me about a year ago. And this certainly wasn't the first time that something like this has happened to me. And I know I'm not alone with these kind of situations. So what had happened to me was I was actually at a Detroit Metropolitan Hospital with one of the youth from the center that I'm the clinical director at who needed some medical attention, and he needed to be transported via ambulance. And so I got to this hospital prior to him arriving there. So I went into the emergency room, waiting room, and it was packed. I mean, absolutely packed with people. So I went up to the front desk and I explained my situation, and she said, "Go ahead, fantastic, sir. Go ahead and have a seat over here somewhere, and we'll call you when he gets here and we get him placed in a room. You can go back and you can assist wherever you need to do right on." So that's what I did, but I didn't really want to go sit in the chairs because there was a ton of people in there and a lot of people wearing masks and coughing and flu. It was a flu season, and there was a lot of sick people, which happens to be the case in most emergency rooms. So I was like, I don't really want to be part of all of that, right? So I went ahead and just kind of went and sat against one of the walls, actually sitting next to a drinking fountain, and I was just kind of sitting there on the floor and just looking around and just kind of taking things in. And I noticed about maybe 6 to 10 feet in front of me was an elderly couple, probably mid to late 60s, maybe even a little older than that. And she was obviously in a lot of pain. She was writhing, sitting back and forth in a wheelchair, and she's like, "Oh," and she'd shift over here and "Oh," and the gentleman that she was with, I don't know if it was her husband or her brother, or her friend or partner. I don't know. I didn't get to do introductions at that stage, but he was obviously a very frustrated person. I think probably frustrated with this situation that they were waiting so long, frustrated that he couldn't help her, frustrated with her writhing in pain, and he was responding by getting very aggressive. He would just say to her, "I'm trying to help you," and he would get really angry and just, "Arr!" And it was kind of scary a little bit. I didn't really know what he was going to do, so I was watching this, and he was just sitting down, and so I thought, okay, she's not really in any danger of getting hurt, but he's obviously very, very, angry, and so I thought, what can I do? And so I decided to just absolutely focus on my thoughts, on my intention, and just sent the most positive, loving message that I could to them. So I closed my eyes and I just tried to envelop them in whatever I could that would provide them with a sense of peace of mind. And I just kept saying over and over to myself, just love her. I'm sending that message out to him, just love her. I didn't really know, I didn't have an idea what that would look like or what that meant, but just love her. And I just kept doing that, probably for about a minute, and it seemed like a lot longer. And then I opened my eyes and I watched them, and she was, oh, and then he got up and he stood right in front of her and he said, I'm trying. I'm doing everything I can. And then he just kind of stopped and he took a deep breath and he reached out with his hand and he took her hand and he put her hand in his hand and he took his other hand and put it over her hand and he said very softly, I'm trying. I'm doing everything I can to get you help. And she said, I know you are. Thank you. And I was like, oh, wow, that was necessary. And then about 10 seconds after that, they got their name called and they went back and got medical attention. And as he was walking by me, he looked down at me sitting next to this drinking fountain, probably thinking, what's this crazy cat doing sitting next to a drinking fountain? And he smiled at me. He said, thank you. And I simply said to him, tried to look him in the eye as much as I could. I truly hope everything works out for the two of you. And he said, thank you so much. And that was it. And they went in and they got their medical attention. And I thought, whew, that was cool, man. That was absolutely awesome. Not because Chris is a guru, mind shifter, energy shifter. No, not at all. But there was something that I could do in that moment in time. And I believe it makes a difference. I truly believe it makes a difference. Now, there are other options that I had. I could have stood up and aggressively said, hey, man, don't yell at her. That's not helping the situation. Or I could have just got up and said, oh, get the hell out of here and walked out of here. I could have put my head down and turned my music up on my earbuds and just pretended it wasn't happening. And how often in life do we do something like that? Because we don't want to get involved or whatever the situation is. And yet we are involved. If we believe there's an interconnectedness, we're always involved. So it always matters. And I think, especially right now, in this time, when you feel like you can't physically do something, pay attention to your intentions. Let's send a message of love. Send a message of love to our neighbor. Send a message of love to someone you know is in pain. Send a message of love to someone who you know needs to be lifted up. I believe it makes a difference. So I wanted to share that with you. It felt really strongly on my heart the last couple of weeks. Not because it's a unique situation. I guarantee that those of you that will listen to this will have very, very similar experiences that you've had on your journeys. Let's keep doing it. It all matters. Stay strong, my friends. Much love.